Hello, everybody. Welcome to another weekly session. Today's session would be a bit short and precise. So, yeah, we might cover up the topics at a later stage or we might bring it up in the next session, depends upon the availability of the time. So, what we are about to discuss today is Python and missing values overviews and how to handle how basically context manager on a very superficial overview. Context manager is quite vast in itself. It's a topic that has to be discussed, that can be discussed, basically that can be elaborated into much deeper context, but we have a time constraint. At least I have a time constraint. So let's begin. Let's get started. So the first topic I would like to pick is handling missing values overview. I personally like this particular article and this one. Let's discuss both of them one by one. So seven different ways of dealing with missing values in the data set. So there are multiple values how you can deal with missing values. First is you can delete the rows with missing values, only permissible if the amount of data that is to be deleted or that will get deleted is approximately 5% of the entire data set. So if the missing values, let's say there are multiple missing values. So if you are about to delete the rows, there are two methods in this as well. You can either delete the entire row or you can delete the specific column. Let's say you have a column which has 90% of the missing values. So in that particular case, it would be much more preferable that you go by deleting the columns rather than deleting the rows. Right? Because if you end up deleting the rows, that doesn't make any sense. If all other columns are there, have their values intact, if all the columns have the value intact, it doesn't make any sense that you delete the rows. You can delete one particular column if it has more than 90% of the missing values, depending upon what the column provides. If the column does provide quite genuine information, basically these are just some general hypotheses. If whatever the use case you are being provided, it keeps on changing with the use case, but whatever I'm trying to deliver is based on my general experience, right? So if you have multiple columns with a lot of missing values, so you can deal with them in a different manner. The best approach or the most simplest approach is deleting or imputing. Now deleting is permissible if you have, for deleting for a column is permissible, usually permissible, that is the apt word to use, usually permissible if the column has 90% or 80% missing values. This means that column actually does not contribute significantly to the data. Now you can also do the missing values. You can also remove the rows if there are only 5 to 10% removal of the data, preferably 5%. 10% is usually a lot of data to remove, right? Then we have imputing the missing values for continuous variable, categorical variable. So these are imputing. You can use for continuous variable. What we usually use is mean value, or you can use median value. For categorical variable, there's only one option. You cannot calculate the mean or median. There's only one option, that is mode. You can calculate the mode of the variable, mode of the column, and thereby you can impute the categorical value. Other imputation methods are usually something like you can use a random forest, you can use machine learning. Let's say you can change the target column. It's like working the other way around. It's like reverse engineering. You can change the target column, whatever your target column is, you can include that in your data set, make it a part of your data set. Once you have that as a part of your data set, you can train a model on that, and whatever the missing column is, you can try to predict on the missing values. So that's a whole new different problem that becomes. So you'll be like, apart from model training, you will be training on the data, then you'll be obtaining predictions. That is how it's using algorithms that support missing values. Yeah, these are like CAT boost, XGBoost. Those are algorithms that are kind of inbuilt. They have inbuilt mechanisms to support missing values, prediction of missing values, something we already discussed, or any deep learning library which supports this. So Miss NO is also there, which is kind of quite popular for visualization of missing values. And input with mean median we discussed. Categorical variables, usually what we do, sometimes you fill with any specific value, NA, you might fill with 0 depending upon the use case. Ultimately, you might also fill with 0 if it is missing, it wouldn't have been there, that is why it is missing. So that is a general assumption. You might fill it with value as a 0, or you might fill with any other value. Other imputation methods, not good enough. I think we can wrap it up here. Next article, which also talks about the same data. This is usually asked in objective types. So what are the types of missing values? So it might be missing at random, completely at random, and not at random. So not at random is something quite interesting. So deliberately not revealing your information is what we call it missing not at random. So you basically try to explain that this particular value has not been revealed due to privacy concerns. Then this one is completely at random. Certain value has nothing to do with the hypothesis or anything. Just is missing. And missing at random means is kind of something. How is it different from both of the statements? Quite seem similar. So that's the catch. Missing at random, missing completely at random. So missing at random means that the data propensity is not related to the missing data, but it's related to the observed data. So basically the data which is kind of missing is not related to missing data, is kind of related to the observed data. What we mean is missing at random is something like you can use impute and other things. So that is what it tries to explain. Completely at random is it has no logic, and not at random is privacy concerns. That's what it is. Now these are different imputation methods. Deletion is this, and if you are for imputation, these are the different methods. Mean median mode, linear interpolation, making models. That's how it is. This is basically for time series, but we discussed a lot of things. I think we did a great overview of how to deal with missing values, but it's usually case dependent. What I mean to say is usually case dependent. You need to understand what it is. Usually people I've seen people using random forest, and you can use the random forest train. Let's say you can include the target variable in your training data set and keep the missing column as your target variable, pseudo target variable. Whatever the values are not missing can be taken as train data. Whatever value is missing can be taken as test data. Train a model, get predictions, and impute your missing values. Then obtain a complete data set. Using the complete data set, you can obtain a good data set, and using that data set, you can train on it. Then you can obtain predictions, and that's how is one of the most popular imputation method, which is quite prevalent in the industry, happens. So if you have any concerns or doubts or misunderstandings, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Our next topic is context manager, or we can pick Python for faster NumPy, or we can pick context manager. Context manager is quite important in real life as well as in Python. So context manager in Python works and ensures that any particular file or resource is properly managed and it's not out of context, is not referred out of context. If it is referred out of context, you will run into errors. So is the case in real life. Don't make things out of context. You wouldn't be willing to do things out of context, right? Good enough. Those who are good context managers usually are better at life. So, where do we start with? This article is quite interesting. So, we'll start with this. Let's see what GFG has to offer. So basically, context manager is about how you manage resources in Python. So although resource management is usually done with context managers, basically not exactly resources. The way I would like to say is you're dealing with multiple files. You wouldn't like to crash your processing when you're dealing with multiple files. So how to maintain the scope? One method is f equal to open the file name and whatever the mode is, but this only good if you are just limited to a small part of a code. If there's a huge multi-line code or multi-modules code, I have worked on multi-modules code and it's extremely difficult to manage those kind of projects. So if you have worked on multi-modules code, the only thing you need to ensure is context, and context is ensured, and you can be sure, and you need not to worry about the very meticulous details of how the things happen with the help of context managers. So using this method ensures that once you are out of the scope, the file is done. You're declaring that I'm done with this file. You may forget it. This is out of the context. And this method is not in context manager and thereby throws an error. Now context manager, usually there are three methods, what we call as init, enter and exit. So usually we define context manager with, but if you want to have a different kind of context manager, a custom context manager, which behaves differently when entered and when exited, this is how a context manager is done. In file we have init, enter, exit. In file management we have init, enter, exit. Same is the case with context manager. That MongoDB also uses context manager. That's it. Basically, what I would like to share and discuss, this particular article is huge, and I don't think we have ample amount of time. We don't have ample amount of time. So this talks about those async and those kind of perspectives of how to deal with context managers in Python, those async, synchronization, and those kind of things. So we are not getting into those kind of things. That would take a lot of time. It's a good read, but only if you're extremely comfortable with the meticulous details or the with the extra unnecessary out of scope. It would be out of scope. If you just are quite inquisitive about learning context managers and beyond context managers, this is what it is if you want to read. So I'll be discussing this part of context manager. So let's do context manager. So now I want to write a file, but let's say reading a file is different. But let's say every time I want to write a file, I want to have a different behavior with file reading and writing. So file writer, I need three components, which is init. Next part is enter. And the last part is exit. So whenever I would write, usually what we do is with open. What we usually use for writing file with open, let's say text one.text, write mode as file dot write hello. That's what you usually do, right? But I don't want to do this way. What I want to do is have a proper defined structured method for file writing. And how do you do it? Is with the help of context managers. So context managers in Python as well as in real life are equally important. Everything has a place and proper thing to do. You don't want to be, don't want to be like out of the context. Right? You don't want to land out of the context. That's extremely bad. Now, when I enter the file writer, what I want to do is self dot file name equals to file name Let's first implement their implementation and let's see how it is. File name mode self dot mode equals mode self dot file equals to none. Good enough. Self dot file equals open. So we are using the open behind the scenes. They are using open behind the scenes, but that's quite interesting. Just entered the constructor of context manager. Ready to be written. And on exit, what you're gonna do is close the file, self.file.close. Although that would be done automatically, but we want to ensure. And after that, just print file closed or any other operation you might like to do. So let's run it and see how it goes. I think it would be a simple example of context manager. Why is this happening? Okay, we need self over here. Self and self. Yeah, we need this as well. Execute type, exec and traceback. So we'll get to these. What are these? These are not discussed over here. Hopefully they are not discussed over here. We can get to them at let's search context manager. So this is execution type, execution value, execution traceback, and that's what this call is about. So we can print out those values and let ourselves be more enlightened and educated about what this is in particular. None, nothing. Good enough, good enough, good enough. If I want to raise an exception, I can raise exception raised. What does it print now? Class type exception raised is the execution value, and execution traceback is something. And let's say trace with traceback none. Good enough. And I think that does cover a lot of it. Where is context manager used? Basically for custom handling of your file writing. Let's say what you want to do is when this file is written, I want to make a separate copy of it where it loads or records some other kind of values, or I want to have where I have to write multiple files with some kind of different data, and I want to keep a log of it. So you can do this with the help of context manager, a generic context manager, rather than writing again and again and again and again, replicating the same code. If you have to replicate the code, that is what classes and object-oriented programming are. Right. All right. And last topic would be Cython. Cython is something which is quite interesting. I was trying to get a hang of it. I'll also do a brief introduction of what Cython is. Cython Paperspace article is something I found quite interesting and fascinating. This one. So this claims that with the help of Cython, your processing of NumPy array, I mean NumPy is way faster. NumPy versus list, NumPy versus Python list, speed comparison is around 30 times faster than Python's list, right? Now, if you talk about, I mean, there's tremendous boost. 30 times anything which is 30 times tremendous faster is nothing better than that. But if you have Cython, they claim that it would be 1250 times faster. So how beautiful is that? How amazing is that? So given the fact that I would like to discuss the key points, as I don't want to extend the session unnecessary. Just the gist of it, I have gone through the entire notebook. So it keeps on getting, so we are, the entire philosophy of any deep learning framework or any Python framework is the higher you are, the more comfortable you would be with coding, but the more you try to get into the depths and meticulous details, the more faster you will get, but the coding part would get difficult, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. If you're comfortable with something, you can get and make a deeper dive, and so that you understand what exactly it is, right? So this is for one extremely simple Python loop in NumPy. So you import time, NumPy arrange, you go through the loop, make the total, sum the total, print out the time. Then you have Cython type for NumPy array, those kind of things, and import time, NumPy, Cython, NumPy, those kind of things, and then you have Maxwell, those arrays. This particular thing shows that you have a tremendous speed boost. So this particular thing is not a Python script, it is saved in NumPy, and even though it is saved in NumPy, you would observe a speed boost. Now what you do is, what is difference between Cython and NumPy, right? I think that would be an interesting topic to talk about. So you have different versions. You have Python, pure Python, you have NumPy, you have CPython, and then you have Cython. What is Python is purely interpreter based language. What is CPython? CPython is partially interpreter, some partially compiled, and Cython is a lot more compiled, and that's why it gives the tremendous speed boost. So this code is first compiled, and part of it then goes into the interpreter. That is how the speed boost is achieved. Now this is a pure Python code. I'm not going through the article, I won't be coding it right now. I am on extreme crunch of time. Now if you want to do this, improvise the speeding, you can declare the variables and get the NumPy of C type, Cython type. You can declare variables in Cython format, get the array and those things. This does just only declaring the variables in Cython format improves the speed a lot, 3 times, 4 times faster. Now, if you declare the array in Cython format, that gives another kind of speed boost. If you declare if you declare a dedicated Python function for this. That is another kind of speed boost. Now, if you change the iteration in a different manner, that would definitely give another kind of speed boost. Now, if you disable the boundary checks, whether or not you're going out of index or you're going negative index, if you declare those, so that won't be a runtime thing. If it is not a runtime thing, if it is predefined, the Python need not to check it, and if it's not needed to check, then that definitely counts for a speed boost. So there are 4 factors. First is defining the numpy array type. Second is specifying the data type of array elements, looping through numpy arrays, and fourth is disabling any necessary features. I won't be coding. I might code this in the next video. I am running on a time crunch, and that's what it is. Alright, let's wrap it up over here. Have a great day. Let me know if you have anything to ask. Comment down your queries, anything you want to know. Alright, take care. Bye-bye.